Monday, January 4th, 2021. Donald Trump's last stand. Let's be honest. For those of you who wanted to see an insurrection or a constitutional crisis, and there still may be some fireworks, I think there's going to be a lot of information that gets to people for the very first time in a couple of days. That's my prediction. And there will be an enormous rally on Wednesday, which is a weird day, but that's the day. And there'll be a ton of people. There are caravans as I speak who are driving on their way to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., by the way, does not want to welcome these people, which is, our country is a really screwed up place right now. The kind of tactics, like the suppression of information, the, hey, we'll demonetize you, or hey, you can't do banking with us anymore, or hey, here's $600. Aren't we great? Let me make a quick point here. Trump, obviously, the reason this isn't going to go anywhere, and it should go somewhere, but it's not going to go anywhere, not because there isn't evidence. There's a ton of evidence. There's a ton. It's that the general population right now is a numb population. Self-medicated, depressed. After 2020, they just want all this to go away. Just let's it's like a book. We've got a book. We want to turn the page. Just let's turn the page to the next chapter. Oh, look, a corpse. He's our new president. Okay. Let's just put this all, because again, it's a psychological, this whole thing was a giant psyop. From the virus to everything was just a psyop. And you don't have to think that it's a psyop, but it was a psyop. And they won. They won. There are not enough people. You know how they won? It's easy to see how they won, because there are people driving around in their cars with a mask on. You don't think they won? There are people walking out in public with nobody else around them with a mask on. It's real easy to convince people that a corpse who didn't have rallies, who had 20 people showing up, and he won. And he, by the way, he got the most votes in the history of the presidency. Oh, is this thing on? Hello? Okay, it's on. No. See, this is where you use a little common sense and think to yourself, well, for instance, Trump increased his vote total by something like 12 million. About 12 million more votes than last time. But yet the other guy, who again didn't campaign, and this was a blatant repeat of 2016, but here's my theory. Theory alert. 2016, they didn't really try to rig because they just thought they had it. They may have done some rigging because they used most of the rigging against Bernie Sanders in the primary. Keep the populist guy away. See, Bernie had a populist message. He just wasn't willing to really work for it. The whole premise now is, oh, you can get Biden to do. Biden isn't even awake, all right? This does not send strength around the world when a guy can barely get through a sentence, okay? This is just not a strong, determined leader. That's just a different subject altogether, and I will skip that for now. But let me get to the election part, okay? And this is the controversial part. And of course, yes, the Associated Press, I know you've declared Biden the winner. I keep saying it just as a disclaimer. And I think Biden will, unfortunately, be sworn in. As what? I don't know. Corpse in chief? I don't know what you want to call him. And if you think that's a derogatory term, I'm sorry. That's the best I can do. I am an angry person, no question about it. I'm a peaceful but angry person. It's a fiery protest, but it's peaceful. All right. In a court, if you've got a bunch of evidence, right? That person's guilty and so forth in a court, and you find out some of that evidence is tainted, or you found new evidence. The judge, if it's a normal, fair person who's got a majority of their faculties, looks at that and says, well, we've got new evidence. So basically, we need to start over. We need to throw out this trial and have a new trial. Have a new trial. New evidence, new trial. Or in some circumstances, the entire thing is thrown out. It's thrown out. Judgment goes to the plaintiff, right? Not the victim goes to the plaintiff, or vice versa. Whatever the case may be, it goes back to the other person. But there are plenty of times where they have a new trial. The most fair thing you could do, and it'll never happen, is have a new election in all 50 states with new safeguards in place. New safeguards in place, a new election with paper ballots, no machines hooked to the internet. Oh, that's not true. That's just a rumor. You're making it up. No, I watched the forensic scientist. His name is Pulitzer. That's how I remember. Jovan Pulitzer. And he's a bigwig at many corporations. His patents are used all over the place. If you watch his testimony, and if you don't think he's not an expert witness, then you are intellectually in some kind of other dimension, and you can't come to grips with reality, and you're deceiving yourself. You are a deceiver of yourself. All right. So that's my premise. If you find evidence and you bring it forward, and the judge is about to rule, the judge will say, look, we've got new evidence here, and let's adjourn to my chamber, and I'll talk to counsel, and then motion to adjourn, motion to dismiss, motion for a new trial. Now, in the case of the electorate here in the United States, people are tired, people are psyoped, people are stressed, people have had enough of politics. We went basically 2 years nonstop of politics. We had Russia collusion nonsense. We had Ukrainian phone call. By the way, we have the new phone call to the Georgia Secretary of State, which is like part 2 of the Ukrainian phone call nonsense. Trump looking for votes, saying, hey, we need this many votes. You can't find that many votes. He's not asking the guy to invent votes. He's asking him to count the votes properly. Of course, you can't do that. Grounds for impeachment. Yeah, he's got, why do you want to impeach somebody who's got 2 weeks left in office? Why? You guys are insane. You're insane. There's a media bubble, which, turn on your local news. They're in the bubble because they finally reported on something. It's almost like if you were in that vortex, why are they talking? Why would he talk to the Georgia Secretary of State? Why is he doing that? What's going on in Georgia? There's nothing going on in Georgia. Everything, I heard that this was all baseless. I'm starting to become that person. You become so jaded. You become so just fed up with a narrative, and it's worse than gaslighting. This is like a Joseph Goebbels thing, but it's on steroids. It's worse because it's coming at you because of all this media and AI and all this crap. It's coming at you from you turn on you're listening to a radio station. They have a news report at the top of the hour. And what are they feeding you at the top of the hour? Well, Trump's crazy. It's insane. Trump's crazy. Baseless, fraud, baseless, no fraud. Crazy. Experts who? Dr. Fauci? Wrong field, Dave. No. I bet you if you got Dr. Fauci, was there any election fraud? Oh, I don't know. I can tell you this though, there probably wasn't, wear your mask and enjoy your life, but wear your mask. Well, Biden says he's going to keep him on, so yikes. Oh my gosh, and he's lifted up in the Gallup poll. He was one of the most admired people. Fauci, Dr. Fauci. Trump, by the way, won that Gallup poll. He is the most admired man. You know why Trump won that? Because he's fighting. He's fighting. You don't see politicians fighting for anything. Whether he's fighting for, you think his cause is stupid or not worthy. And I know there are a lot of people watching that probably think, it's just ridiculous. Just move on. That's the thing. Move on. Remember moveon.org? Not too much of a neoliberal organization. Just move on. And that was because that whole thing started because of Bush. And in a weird way, they were kind of right. Yeah, let's move on from Bush. Let's not move on to something worse, like Obama. I mean, our politics are completely broken and destroyed. And now you've got people who will never have confidence in their vote until we fix it. And we're going to be lazy and we're going to be forgetful, just like we always are. We have no attention span. Oh, well, they said they were going to fix the voting. Maybe they'll fix it next time. Who's going to fix it? If we don't fix it, it's not going to be fixed. The dumbest thing I've ever heard. People are just like, oh, well, somebody else will do it. It's kind of like people go to church. Oh, someone else will give money to the church. Someone else will help out with this thing that they're doing. Someone else will volunteer. I want to just take advantage of everything. I just want to do the things that I want to do, and someone else will step up and do it, and nobody will get any credit for doing what they do. And this is when people start to feel like it doesn't matter. I can sit there and I can be a poll watcher. I can do all of these things, and they're going to steal, and they're going to cheat, and they're going to lie, and then they're going to tell me something that I saw with my own two eyes didn't happen. And they're going to repeat it over and over again. And so let me finish up here. I don't want to make this too lengthy. Donald Trump's last stand is likely the last time, at least in the short term, that, and by the way, I don't want a whole bunch of Republicans elected who are just, conservative lapdogs, because that might happen in 2 years, because there will be rebellion. People are like, I got to vote Republican. No, you need to vote populist. You need to vote patriotic. You need to vote for America. You need to vote for citizens who are hurting. All right. And that's a wide swath of people. It's a wide net to cast. And you can be a little progressive if you want to get people up and running. All right. I don't think this should not be an eternal thing, which, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said, the hardest thing to get rid of is a government program. They go on for eternity. Since you enact it, it never leaves. And he's been right. He's been proven right. And some of these programs, you think the Department of Education is a good idea? Let it go back to the communities that are educating their kids. There should not be bureaucracy everywhere you look. But this is our future. It just gets more centralized. And again, this is why I don't like authoritarianism. And a lot of progressives are authoritarians. They pretend not to be, but their ideology, their philosophy pushes you in that direction. Because who's going to enforce the stuff that people rebel against, who don't go along with it? Well, honestly, who do you think? It's going to be the military. It's going to be the police. And that's when you get into the stuff you see in other countries, and you're just like, no, I don't want that here. And that's why there's so many people that are really afraid right now. Because Biden, he's just he's not even a figurehead. He's a figure corpse. He's just going to be up there, and they're going to position and push him this way and that way, and then get ready for Kamala very quickly. I mean, why not very quickly? I don't see this guy, maybe 2 years at the most, probably sooner. I mean, they can easily say, look, he's glad to be president, but he's just not up for it. I mean, they can even come out with his diagnosis, say in March. I don't know, whenever they do the State of the Union, because he's going to have to speak, even with a teleprompter, he's going to have to speak to the Congress, and he's going to have to get up there. And I don't think maybe he can do it. Maybe he can do it once. I don't know. I know they had him hopped up on something during the debates. So maybe there is some medication that can help him. I just think with this last stand that you're seeing, you're seeing something, some of our innocence is being stolen here. I know that sounds weird. And I think most of it was already gone. I think the last little vestiges of it, though, went when people just shake their head and go, yeah, there's nothing really to see here. This guy's just a sore loser and he needs to leave. Yeah, look, this guy was mistreated the entire time he was in the office. Did he mistreat people? Yes. But he wasn't even allowed to basically function. And I think he did some things that a lot of people will look back on and say, well, what's wrong with criminal justice reform? What's wrong with giving a whole bunch of money permanently to predominantly African-American colleges, for instance? I mean, there are going to be some things that people disagree with. You know, all of the courts that he packed with so-called conservatives. I don't think those people are, you can't trust, if you're a conservative and you want conservative or constitutional judges, I don't think any of them are. I think they're all like rogue, doing their own thing, legislating from the bench, as they say. It's all ideological. The court is supposed to be an interpreter of the law, and they're not. They are the makers of legislation now. And people on the right have been saying that for 2 decades, activist judges. And there are, because now you've got judges who are like politicians. Well, this circuit court is a left-wing court, and this one over here is more right-wing or constitutional. The whole thing is out of balance. The 3 branches are like 3 intertwined in the same ball of excrement. That's what I could come up with on short notice. But we don't want a civil war, right? We don't want a civil war. We don't want our kids to watch this play out on television. We don't want this to just go on and on forever. And that's why a lot of Americans are just like, let's just, and by the way, I'm not one of them. I'd rather fight. But I can understand that my fellow Americans are not going to want to continue to do this. But we do have to get back to being ourselves at some point. And that means if this whole Corona thing was used to destroy Trump, and there were a lot of people that said that early on, and I just laughed at them. I said, kind of a conspiracy theory now. I don't know. It seems to me that all of this was used to do something to us, to condition us, to make us not pay attention to things that are important. We're not having any kind of sort of social connection that we used to have. No matter how many times the TV puts commercials out there that have all these people doing Zoom meetings and they look so happy. Oh, I get to talk to grandma. Just don't go and see grandma because you might kill grandma. So don't do that. We are in a weird place and it's just going to get weirder. If anybody thought that 2021 was going to be better than 2020, so far, 4 days in, there's no signs that this is getting any better. We shall see. What do I think is going to happen? I think Trump will eventually have to just leave the White House. He will not be going to any inauguration. By the way, it's a virtual inauguration anyway. So just like the virtual meetings, this whole thing has just been so weird and so nuts. Just look, it's an inauguration. If this is supposed to be so much better, people should. And by the way, the first time when it was announced that supposedly he had clinched, right? There were people out in the streets. Nobody complained about that. I think it was the mayor of Chicago that said, "Yeah, sometimes we just need to get out and have fun." Oh, okay. Glad to know it's the right cause. Just like, the chop zone in Seattle, that was a lot of fun. People had to get out. Whew. We are in a weird time, people. And that's all I got.